Welcome to Pushing to the Front by Orison Swett Marden, one of the most influential classics in the history of self-help and success literature. In these chapters, Marden shares timeless wisdom on ambition, persistence, leadership, and achievement. His words inspire us to overcome hesitation, strengthen our will, and move boldly toward our highest potential. Whether you're seeking personal growth, practical success strategies, or simply daily motivation, this series will encourage and guide you on your journey forward.
Chapter 16. Personality as a Success Asset. There is something about one's personality which eludes the photographer, which the painter cannot reproduce, which the sculptor cannot chisel. This subtle something which everyone feels but which no one can describe, which no biographer ever put down in a book, has a great deal to do with one's success in life. It is this indescribable quality, which some persons have in a remarkable degree, which sets an audience wild at the mention of the name of a Blaine or a Lincoln, which makes people applaud beyond the bounds of enthusiasm. It was this peculiar atmosphere which made Clay the idol of his constituents. Although perhaps Calhoun was a greater man, he never aroused any such enthusiasm as the mill boy of the slashes. Webster and Sumner were great men, but they did not arouse a tithe of the spontaneous enthusiasm evoked by men like Blaine and Clay. A historian says that, in measuring Kossuth's influence over the masses, we must first reckon with the orator's physical bulk, and then carry the measuring line above his atmosphere. If we had discernment fine enough and tests delicate enough, we could not only measure the personal atmosphere of individuals, but could also make more accurate estimates concerning the future possibilities of schoolmates and young friends. We are often misled as to the position they are going to occupy, from the fact that we are apt to take account merely of their ability, and do not reckon this personal atmosphere or magnetic power as a part of their success capital. Yet this individual atmosphere has quite as much to do with one's advancement as brain power or education. Indeed, we constantly see men of mediocre ability, but with fine personal presence, superb manner, and magnetic qualities, being rapidly advanced over the heads of those who are infinitely their superiors in mental endowments. A good illustration of the influence of personal atmosphere is found in the orator who carries his audience with him like a whirlwind, while he is delivering his speech, and yet so little of this personal element adheres to his cold words in print that those who read them are scarcely moved at all. The influence of such speakers depends almost wholly upon their presence, the atmosphere that emanates from them. They are much larger than anything they say or do. Certain personalities are greater than mere physical beauty and more powerful than learning. Charm of personality is a divine gift that sways the strongest characters and sometimes even controls the destinies of nations. We are unconsciously influenced by people who possess this magnetic power. The moment we come into their presence, we have a sense of enlargement. They unlock within us possibilities of which we previously had no conception. Our horizon broadens. We feel a new power stirring through all our being. We experience a sense of relief, as if a great weight which long had pressed upon us had been removed. We can converse with such people in a way that astonishes us, although meeting them perhaps for the first time. We express ourselves more clearly and eloquently than we believed we could. They draw out the best that is in us. They introduce us, as it were, to our larger, better selves. With their presence, Impulses and longings come thronging to our minds which never stirred us before. All at once life takes on a higher and nobler meaning, and we are fired with the desire to do more than we have ever done before, and to be more than we have been in the past. A few minutes before, perhaps, we were sad and discouraged, when, suddenly, the flashlight of a potent personality of this kind has opened a rift in our lives and revealed to us hidden capabilities. Sadness gives place to joy, despair to hope, and disheartenment to encouragement. We have been touched to finer issues. We have caught a glimpse of higher ideals, and for the first moment at least, have been transformed. The old commonplace life, with its absence of purpose and endeavor, has dropped out of sight, and we resolve with better heart and newer hope to struggle to make permanently ours the forces and potentialities that have been revealed to us. Even a momentary contact with a character of this kind seems to double our mental and soul powers, as two great dynamos double the current which passes over the wire, and we are loath to leave the magical presence, lest we lose our newborn power. On the other hand, we frequently meet people who make us shrivel and shrink into ourselves. The moment they come near us, we experience a cold chill, as if a blast of winter had struck us in midsummer. A blighting, narrowing sensation, which seems to make us suddenly smaller, passes over us. We feel a decided loss of power, of possibility. We could no more smile in their presence than we could laugh while at a funeral. Their gloomy, miasmatic atmosphere chills all our natural impulses. In their presence there is no possibility of expansion for us. As a dark cloud suddenly obscures the brightness of a smiling summer sky, their shadows are cast upon us and fill us with vague, undefinable uneasiness. We instinctively feel that such people have no sympathy with our aspirations, and our natural prompting is to guard closely any expression of our hopes and ambitions. When they are near us, our laudable purposes and desires shrink into insignificance and mere foolishness. The charm of sentiment vanishes, and life seems to lose color and zest. The effect of their presence is paralyzing, and we hasten from it as soon as possible. If we study these two types of personality, we shall find that the chief difference between them is that the first loves his kind, and the latter does not. Of course, that rare charm of manner which captivates all those who come within the sphere of its influence, and that strong personal magnetism which inclines all hearts toward its fortunate possessor, are largely natural gifts. But we shall find that the man who practices unselfishness, who is genuinely interested in the welfare of others, who feels it a privilege to have the power to do a fellow creature a kindness, even though polished manners and a gracious presence may be conspicuous by their absence, will be an elevating influence wherever he goes. He will bring encouragement to and uplift every life that touches his. He will be trusted and loved by all who come in contact with him. This type of personality we may all cultivate if we will. Magnetic personality is intangible. This mysterious something, which we sometimes call individuality, is often more powerful than the ability which can be measured or the qualities that can be rated. Many women are endowed with this magnetic quality, which is entirely independent of personal beauty. It is often possessed in a high degree by very plain women. This was notably the case with some of the women who ruled in the French salons more absolutely than the king on his throne. At a social gathering, When conversation drags and interest is at a low ebb, the entrance of some bright woman with a magnetic personality instantly changes the whole situation. She may not be handsome, but everybody is attracted. It is a privilege to speak to her. People who possess this rare quality are frequently ignorant of the source of their power. They simply know they have it, but cannot locate or describe it. While it is, like poetry, music, or art, a gift of nature, born in one, it can be cultivated to a certain extent. Much of the charm of a magnetic personality comes from a fine, cultivated manner. Tact, also, is a very important element, next to a fine manner, perhaps the most important. One must know exactly what to do, and be able to do just the right thing at the proper time. Good judgment and common sense are indispensable to those who are trying to acquire this magic power. Good taste is also one of the elements of personal charm. You cannot offend the tastes of others without hurting their sensibilities. One of the greatest investments one can make is that of attaining a gracious manner, cordiality of bearing, generosity of feeling, the delightful art of pleasing. It is infinitely better than money capital, for all doors fly open to sunny, pleasing personalities. They are more than welcome. They are sought for everywhere. Many a youth owes his promotion or his first start in life to the disposition to be accommodating, to help along wherever he could. This was one of Lincoln's chief characteristics. He had a passion for helping people, for making himself agreeable under all circumstances. Mr. Herndon, his law partner, says, "When the Routledge Tavern, where Lincoln boarded, was crowded, he would often give up his bed and sleep on the counter in his store with a roll of calico for his pillow. Somehow everybody in trouble turned to him for help." This generous desire to assist others and to return kindnesses especially endeared Lincoln to the people. The power to please is a tremendous asset. What can be more valuable than a personality which always attracts, never repels? It is not only valuable in business, but also in every field of life. It makes statesmen and politicians. It brings clients to the lawyer and patients to the physician. It is worth everything to the clergyman. No matter what career you enter, you cannot overestimate the importance of cultivating that charm of manner, those personal qualities which attract people to you. They will take the place of capital or influence. They are often a substitute for a large amount of hard work. Some men attract business, customers, clients, patients, as naturally as magnets attract particles of steel. Everything seems to point their way, for the same reason that the steel particles point toward the magnet, because they are attracted. Such men are business magnets. Business moves toward them, even when they do not apparently make half so much effort to get it as the less successful. Their friends call them lucky dogs, but if we analyze these men closely, we find that they have attractive qualities. There is usually some charm of personality about them that wins all hearts. Many successful business and professional men would be surprised if they should analyze their success to find what a large percentage of it is due to their habitual courtesy and other popular qualities. Had it not been for these, their sagacity, long-headedness, and business training would not perhaps have amounted to half so much. For, no matter how able a man may be, if his coarse, rude manners drive away clients, patients, or customers, if his personality repels, he will always be placed at a disadvantage. It pays to cultivate popularity. It doubles success possibilities, develops manhood, and builds up character. To be popular, one must strangle selfishness. He must keep back his bad tendencies. He must be polite, gentlemanly, agreeable, and companionable. In trying to be popular, he is on the road to success and happiness as well. The ability to cultivate friends is a powerful aid to success. It is capital which will stand by one when panics come, when banks fail, when business concerns go to the wall. How many men have been able to start again after having everything swept away by fire or flood or some other disaster, just because they had cultivated popular qualities, because they had learned the art of being agreeable, of making friends, and holding them with hooks of steel. People are influenced powerfully by their friendships, by their likes and dislikes, and a popular business or professional man has every advantage in the world over a cold, indifferent man, for customers, clients, or patients will flock to him. Cultivate the art of being agreeable. It will help you to self-expression as nothing else will. It will call out your success qualities. It will broaden your sympathies. It is difficult to conceive of any more delightful birthright than to be born with this personal charm. And yet it is comparatively easy to cultivate, because it is made up of so many other qualities, all of which are cultivatable. I never knew a thoroughly unselfish person who was not an attractive person. No person who is always thinking of himself and trying to figure out how he can get some advantage from everybody else will ever be attractive. We are naturally disgusted with people who are trying to get everything for themselves and never think of anybody else. The secret of pleasing is in being pleasant yourself, in being interesting. If you would be agreeable, you must be magnanimous. The narrow, stingy soul is not lovable. People shrink from such a character. There must be heartiness in the expression, in the smile, in the handshake, in the cordiality, which is unmistakable. The hardest natures cannot resist these qualities any more than the eyes can resist the sun. If you radiate sweetness and light, people will love to get near you, for we are all looking for the sunlight, trying to get away from the shadows. It is unfortunate that these things are not taught more in the home and in the school, for our success and happiness depend largely upon them. Many of us are no better than uneducated heathens. We may know enough, but we give ourselves out stingily, and we live narrow and reserved lives, when we should be broad, generous, sympathetic, and magnanimous. Popular people, those with great personal charm, take infinite pains to cultivate all the little graces and qualities which go to make up popularity. If people who are naturally unsocial would only spend as much time and take as much pains as people who are social favorites in making themselves popular, they would accomplish wonders. Everybody is attracted by lovable qualities and is repelled by the unlovely wherever found. The whole principle of an attractive personality lives in this sentence: a fine manner pleases, a coarse, brutal manner repels. We cannot help being attracted to one who is always trying to help us, who gives us his sympathy, who is always trying to make us comfortable and to give us every advantage he can. On the other hand, we are repelled by people who are always trying to get something out of us, who elbow their way in front of us, to get the best seat in a car or a hall, who are always looking for the easiest chair, or for the choicest bits at the table, who are always wanting to be waited on first at the restaurant or hotel, regardless of others. The ability to bring the best that is in you to the man you are trying to reach, to make a good impression at the very first meeting, to approach a prospective customer as though you had known him for years, without offending his taste, without raising the least prejudice, but getting his sympathy and goodwill, is a great accomplishment, and this is what commands a great salary. There is a charm in a gracious personality from which it is very hard to get away. It is difficult to snub the man who possesses it. There is something about him which arrests your prejudice, and no matter how busy or how worried you may be, or how much you may dislike to be interrupted, somehow you haven't the heart to turn away the man with a pleasing personality. Who has not felt his power multiplied many times, his intellect sharpened, and a keener edge put on all of his faculties, when coming into contact with a strong personality which has called forth hidden powers which he never before dreamed he possessed, so that he could say things and do things impossible to him when alone? The power of the orator, which he flings back to his listeners, he first draws from his audience, but he could never get it from the separate individuals, any more than the chemist could get the full power from chemicals standing in separate bottles in his laboratory. It is in contact and combination only that new creations, new forces are developed. We little realize what a large part of our achievement is due to others working through us, to their sharpening our faculties, radiating hope, encouragement, and helpfulness into our lives, and sustaining and inspiring us mentally. We are apt to overestimate the value of an education from books alone. A large part of the value of a college education comes from the social intercourse of the students, the reinforcement, the buttressing of character by association. Their faculties are sharpened and polished by the attrition of mind with mind and the pitting of brain against brain, which stimulate ambition, brighten the ideals, and open up new hopes and possibilities. Book knowledge is valuable, but the knowledge which comes from mind intercourse is invaluable. Two substances totally unlike, but having a chemical affinity for each other, may produce a third infinitely stronger than either, or even both of those which unite. Two people with a strong affinity often call into activity in each other a power which neither dreamed he possessed before. Many an author owes his greatest book, his cleverest saying, to a friend who has aroused in him latent powers which otherwise might have remained dormant. Artists have been touched by the power of inspiration through a masterpiece, or by someone they happened to meet, who saw in them what no one else had ever seen, the power to do an immortal thing. The man who mixes with his fellows is ever on a voyage of discovery, finding new islands of power in himself, which would have remained forever hidden but for association with others. Everybody he meets has some secret for him, if he can only extract it, something which he never knew before, something which will help him on his way, something which will enrich his life. No man finds himself alone. Others are his discoverers. It is astonishing how much you can learn from people in social intercourse when you know how to look at them rightly. But it is a fact that you can only get a great deal out of them by giving them a great deal of yourself. The more you radiate yourself, the more magnanimous you are, the more generous of yourself, the more you fling yourself out to them without reserve, the more you will get back. You must give much in order to get much. The current will not set toward you until it goes out from you. About all you can get from others is a reflex of the currents from yourself. The more generously you give, the more you get in return. You will not receive if you give out stingily, narrowly, meanly. You must give of yourself in a wholehearted, generous way, or you will receive only stingy rivulets, when you might have had great rivers and torrents of blessings. A man who might have been symmetrical, well-rounded, had he availed himself of every opportunity of touching life along all sides, remains a pygmy in everything except his own little specialty, because he did not cultivate his social side. It is always a mistake to miss an opportunity of meeting with our kind, and especially of mixing with those above us, because we can always carry away something of value. It is through social intercourse that our rough corners are rubbed off, that we become polished and attractive. If you go into social life with a determination to give it something, to make it a school for your self-improvement, for calling out your best social qualities, for developing the latent brain cells which have remained dormant for the lack of exercise, you will not find society either a bore or unprofitable. You must give it something, or you will not get anything. When you learn to look upon every one you meet as holding a treasure, something which will enrich your life, which will enlarge and broaden your experience, and make you more of a man, you will not think the time in the drawing room wasted. The man who is determined to get on will look upon every experience as an educator, as a culture chisel, which will make his life a little more shapely and attractive. Frankness of manner is one of the most delightful of traits in young or old. Everybody admires the open-hearted, the people who have nothing to conceal, and who do not try to cover up their faults and weaknesses. They are, as a rule, large-hearted and magnanimous. They inspire love and confidence, and, by their very frankness and simplicity, invite the same qualities in others. Secretiveness repels as much as frankness attracts. There is something about the very inclination to conceal or cover up which arouses suspicion and distrust. We cannot have the same confidence in people who possess this trait, no matter how good they may seem to be, as in frank, sunny natures. Dealing with these secretive people is like travelling on a stagecoach on a dark night. There is always a feeling of uncertainty. We may come out all right, but there is a lurking fear of some pitfall or unknown danger ahead of us. We are uncomfortable because of the uncertainties. They may be all right and may deal squarely with us, but we are not sure and cannot trust them. No matter how polite or gracious a secretive person may be, we can never rid ourselves of the feeling that there is a motive behind his graciousness, and that he has an ulterior purpose in view. He is always more or less of an enigma, because he goes through life wearing a mask. He endeavours to hide every trait that is not favourable to himself. Never, if he can help it, do we get a glimpse of the real man. How different the man who comes out in the open, who has no regrets, who reveals his heart to us, and who is frank, broad, and liberal. How quickly he wins our confidence. How we all like and trust him. We forgive him for many a slip or weakness, because he is always ready to confess his faults and to make amends for them. If he has bad qualities, they are always in sight, and we are ready to make allowances for them. His heart is sound and true. His sympathies are broad and active. The very qualities he possesses, frankness and simplicity, are conducive to the growth of the highest manhood and womanhood. In the Black Hills of South Dakota, there lived a humble, ignorant miner who won the love and goodwill of everyone. "You can't help liking him," said an English miner, and when asked why the miners and the people in the town couldn't help liking him, he answered, "Because he has a heart in him. He's a man. He always helps the boys when in trouble. You never go to him for nothing." Bright, handsome young men, graduates of Eastern colleges, were there seeking their fortune. A great many able, strong men, drawn there from different parts of the country by the gold fever. But none of them held the public confidence like this poor man. He could scarcely write his name, and knew nothing of the usages of polite society. Yet he so entrenched himself in the hearts of his community that no other man, however educated or cultured, had the slightest chance of being elected to any office of preeminence while Ike was around. He was elected mayor of his town and sent to the legislature, although he could not speak a grammatical sentence. It was all because he had a heart in him. He was a man. End of chapter 16. Personality as a success asset.
If you enjoy timeless wisdom like this, consider subscribing for more audiobooks just like it.
Chapter 17. If you can talk well. When Charles W. Eliot was president of Harvard, he said, "I recognize but one mental acquisition as an essential part of the education of a lady or gentleman, namely, an accurate and refined use of the mother tongue." Sir Walter Scott defined a good conversationalist as one who has ideas, who reads, thinks, listens, and who has therefore something to say. There is no other one thing which enables us to make so good an impression, especially upon those who do not know us thoroughly, as the ability to converse well. To be a good conversationalist, able to interest people, to rivet their attention, to draw them to you naturally, by the very superiority of your conversational ability, is to be the possessor of a very great accomplishment, one which is superior to all others. It not only helps you to make a good impression upon strangers, it also helps you to make and keep friends. It opens doors and softens hearts. It makes you interesting in all sorts of company. It helps you to get on in the world. It sends you clients, patients, customers. It helps you into the best society, even though you are poor. A man who can talk well, who has the art of putting things in an attractive way, who can interest others immediately by his power of speech, has a very great advantage over one who may know more than he, but who cannot express himself with ease or eloquence. No matter how expert you may be in any other art or accomplishment, you cannot use your expertness always and everywhere as you can the power to converse well. If you are a musician, no matter how talented you may be, or how many years you may have spent in perfecting yourself in your specialty, or how much it may have cost you, only comparatively few people can ever hear or appreciate your music. You may be a fine singer, and yet travel around the world without having an opportunity of showing your accomplishment, or without anyone guessing your specialty. But wherever you go, and in whatever society you are, no matter what your station in life may be, you talk. You may be a painter. You may have spent years with great masters, and yet, unless you have very marked ability, so that your pictures are hung in the salons or in the great art galleries, comparatively few people will ever see them. But if you are an artist in conversation, everyone who comes in contact with you will see your life picture, which you have been painting ever since you began to talk. Everyone knows whether you are an artist or a bungler. In fact, you may have a great many accomplishments which people occasionally see or enjoy, and you may have a very beautiful home and a lot of property which comparatively few people ever know about. But if you are a good converser, everyone with whom you talk will feel the influence of your skill and charm. A noted society leader, who has been very successful in the launching of débutantes in society, always gives this advice to her protégés. Talk, talk. It does not matter much what you say, but chatter away lightly and gaily. Nothing embarrasses and bores the average man so much as a girl who has to be entertained. There is a helpful suggestion in this advice. The way to learn to talk is to talk. The temptation for people who are unaccustomed to society, who feel diffident, is to say nothing themselves and listen to what others say. Good talkers are always sought after in society. Everybody wants to invite Mrs. So-and-so to dinners or receptions because she is such a good talker. She entertains. She may have many defects, but people enjoy her society because she can talk well. Conversation, if used as an educator, is a tremendous power developer. But talking without thinking, without an effort to express oneself with clearness, conciseness, or efficiency, mere chattering or gossiping, the average society small talk, will never get hold of the best thing in a man. It lies too deep for such superficial effort. Thousands of young people who envy such of their mates as are getting on faster than they are, keep on wasting their precious evenings and their half-holidays, saying nothing but the most frivolous, frothy, senseless things which do not rise to the level of humour, but the foolish, silly talk which demoralizes one's ambition, lowers one's ideals and all the standards of life, because it begets habits of superficial and senseless thinking. On the streets, on the cars, and in public places, loud, coarse voices are heard in light, flippant, slipshod speech, in coarse slang expressions. You're talking through your hat. Search me. You just bet. Well, that's the limit. I hate that man. He gets on my nerves. And a score of other such vulgarities we often hear. Nothing else will indicate your fineness or coarseness of culture, your breeding or lack of it, so quickly as your conversation. It will tell your whole life story. What you say and how you say it will betray all your secrets, will give the world your true measure. There is no accomplishment, no attainment, which you can use so constantly and effectively, which will give you so much pleasure to your friends, as fine conversation. There is no doubt that the gift of language was intended to be a much greater accomplishment than the majority of us have ever made of it. Most of us are bunglers in our conversation because we do not make an art of it. We do not take the trouble or pains to learn to talk well. We do not read enough or think enough. Most of us express ourselves in sloppy, slipshod English because it is so much easier to do so than it is to think before we speak, to make an effort to express ourselves with elegance, ease, and power. Poor conversers excuse themselves for not trying to improve by saying that good talkers are born, not made. We might as well say that good lawyers, good physicians, or good merchants are born, not made. None of them would ever get very far without hard work. This is the price of all achievement that is of value. Many a man owes his advancement very largely to his ability to converse well, the ability to interest people in your conversation, to hold them, is a great power. The man who has a bungling expression, who knows a thing but never can put it in logical, interesting, or commanding language, is always placed at a great disadvantage. I know a businessman who has cultivated the art of conversation to such an extent that it is a great treat to listen to him. His language flows with such liquid, limpid beauty. His words are chosen with such exquisite delicacy, taste, and accuracy. There is such a refinement in his diction that he charms everyone who hears him speak. All his life he has been a reader of the finest prose and poetry, and has cultivated conversation as a fine art. You may think you are poor, and have no chance in life. You may be situated so that others are dependent upon you, and you may not be able to go to school or college or to study music or art. You may be tied down to an iron environment. You may be tortured with an unsatisfied, disappointed ambition, and yet you can become an interesting talker, because in every sentence you utter, you can practice the best form of expression. Every book you read, every person with whom you converse, who uses good English, can help you. Few people think very much about how they are going to express themselves. They use the first words that come to them. They do not think of forming a sentence, so that it will have beauty, brevity, transparency, power. The words flow from their lips helter-skelter, with little thought of arrangement or order. Now and then, we meet a real artist in conversation, and it is such a treat and delight that we wonder why the most of us should be such bunglers in our conversation, that we should make such a botch of the medium of communication between human beings, when it is capable of being made the art of arts. I have met 12 persons in my lifetime who have given me such a glimpse of its superb possibilities that it has made all other arts seem comparatively unimportant to me. I was once a visitor at Wendell Phillips' home in Boston, and the music of his voice, the liquid charm of his words, the purity, the transparency of his diction, the profundity of his knowledge, the fascination of his personality, and his marvelous art of putting things, I shall never forget. He sat down on the sofa beside me, and talked as he would to an old schoolmate, and it seemed to me that I had never heard such exquisite and polished English. I have met several English people who possessed that marvelous power of soul in conversation which charms all who come under its spell. Mrs. Mary A. Livermore, Julia Ward Howe, and Elizabeth S. P. Ward had this wonderful conversational charm, as has ex-President Eliot of Harvard. The quality of the conversation is everything. We all know people who use the choicest language and express their thoughts in fluent, liquid diction, who impress us by the wonderful flow of their conversation, but that is all there is to it. They do not impress us with their thoughts. They do not stimulate us to action. We do not feel any more determined to do something in the world, to be somebody, after we have heard them talk, than we felt before. We know other people who talk very little, but whose words are so full of meat and stimulating brain force that we feel ourselves multiplied many times by the power they have injected into us. In olden times, the art of conversation reached a much higher standard than that of today. The deterioration is due to the complete revolution in the conditions of modern civilization. Formerly, people had almost no other way of communicating their thoughts than by speech. Knowledge of all kinds was disseminated almost wholly through the spoken word. There were no great daily newspapers, no magazines or periodicals of any kind. The great discoveries of vast wealth in the precious minerals, the new world opened up by inventions and discoveries, and the great impetus to ambition have changed all this. In this lightning express age, in these strenuous times, when everybody has the mania to attain wealth and position, we no longer have time to reflect with deliberation and to develop our powers of conversation. In these great newspaper and periodical days, when everybody can get for 1 or a few cents the news and information which it has cost thousands of dollars to collect, everybody sits behind the morning sheet or is buried in a book or magazine. There is no longer the same need of communicating thought by the spoken word. Oratory is becoming a lost art for the same reason. Printing has become so cheap that even the poorest homes can get more reading for a few dollars than kings and noblemen, could afford in the Middle Ages. It is a rare thing to find a polished conversationalist today. So rare is it to hear one speaking exquisite English and using a superb diction, that it is indeed a luxury. Good reading, however, will not only broaden the mind and give new ideas, but it will also increase one's vocabulary, and that is a great aid to conversation. Many people have good thoughts and ideas, but they cannot express them because of the poverty of their vocabulary. They have not words enough to clothe their ideas and make them attractive. They talk around in a circle, repeat and repeat, because when they want a particular word to convey their exact meaning, they cannot find it. If you are ambitious to talk well, you must be as much as possible in the society of well-bred, cultured people. If you seclude yourself, though you are a college graduate, you will be a poor converser. We all sympathize with people, especially the timid and shy, who have that awful feeling of repression and stifling of thought when they make an effort to say something and cannot. Timid young people often suffer keenly in this way in attempting to declaim at school or college. But many a great orator went through the same sort of experience when he first attempted to speak in public and was often deeply humiliated by his blunders and failures. There is no other way, however, to become an orator or good conversationalist than by constantly trying to express oneself efficiently and elegantly. If you find that your ideas fly from you when you attempt to express them, that you stammer and flounder about for words which you are unable to find, you may be sure that every honest effort you make, even if you fail in your attempt, will make it all the easier for you to speak well the next time. It is remarkable, if one keeps on trying, how quickly he will conquer his awkwardness and self-consciousness, and will gain ease of manner and facility of expression. Everywhere we see people placed at a tremendous disadvantage because they have never learned the art of putting their ideas into interesting, telling language. We see brainy men at public gatherings, when momentous questions are being discussed, sit silent, unable to tell what they know, when they are infinitely better informed than those who are making a great deal of display of oratory or smooth talk. People with a lot of ability, who know a great deal, often appear like a set of dummies in company, while some superficial, shallow-brained person holds the attention of those present simply because he can tell what he knows in an interesting way. They are constantly humiliated and embarrassed when away from those who happen to know their real worth, because they cannot carry on an intelligent conversation upon any topic. There are hundreds of these silent people at our national capital, many of them wives of husbands who have suddenly and unexpectedly come into political prominence. Many people, and this is especially true of scholars, seem to think that the great desideratum in life is to get as much valuable information into the head as possible. But it is just as important to know how to give out knowledge in a palatable manner as to acquire it. You may be a profound scholar, you may be well read in history and in politics, you may be wonderfully well posted in science, literature, and art, and yet, if your knowledge is locked up within you, you will always be placed at a great disadvantage. Locked up ability may give the individual some satisfaction, but it must be exhibited, expressed in some attractive way, before the world will appreciate it or give credit for it. It does not matter how valuable the rough diamond may be. No explaining, no describing its marvels of beauty within and its great value would avail. Nobody would appreciate it until it was ground and polished and the light let into its depths to reveal its hidden brilliancy. Conversation is to the man what the cutting of the diamond is to the stone. The grinding does not add anything to the diamond, it merely reveals its wealth. How little parents realize the harm they are doing their children by allowing them to grow up ignorant of or indifferent to the marvelous possibilities in the art of conversation. In the majority of homes, children are allowed to mangle the English language in a most painful way. Nothing else will develop the brain and character more than the constant effort to talk well, intelligently, interestingly, upon all sorts of topics. There is a splendid discipline in the constant effort to express one's thoughts in clear language and in an interesting manner. We know people who are such superb conversers that no one would ever dream that they have not had the advantages of the higher schools. Many a college graduate has been silenced and put to shame by people who have never even been to a high school, but who have cultivated the art of self-expression. The school and the college employ the student comparatively a few hours a day for a few years. Conversation is a training in a perpetual school. Many get the best part of their education in this school. Conversation is a great ability discoverer, a great revealer of possibilities and resources. It stimulates thought wonderfully. We think more of ourselves if we can talk well, if we can interest and hold others. The power to do so increases our self-respect, our self-confidence. No man knows what he really possesses until he makes his best effort to express to others what is in him. Then the avenues of the mind fly open, the faculties are on the alert. Every good converser has felt a power come to him from the listener, which he never felt before, and which often stimulates and inspires to fresh endeavor. The mingling of thought with thought, the contact of mind with mind, develops new powers, as the mixing of two chemicals often produces a new third substance. To converse well, one must listen well also, hold oneself in a receptive attitude. We are not only poor conversationalists, but we are poor listeners as well. We are too impatient to listen. Instead of being attentive and eager to drink in the story or the information, we have not enough respect for the talker to keep quiet. We look about impatiently, perhaps snap our watch, play a tattoo with our fingers on a chair or a table, hitch about as if we were bored and were anxious to get away, and interrupt the speaker before he reaches his conclusion. In fact, we are such an impatient people that we have no time for anything excepting to push ahead, to elbow our way through the crowd, to get the position or the money we desire. Our life is feverish and unnatural. We have no time to develop charm of manner or elegance of diction. We are too intense for epigram or repartee. We lack time. Nervous impatience is a conspicuous characteristic of the American people. Everything bores us which does not bring us more business or more money, or which does not help us to attain the position for which we are striving. Instead of enjoying our friends, we are inclined to look upon them as so many rungs in a ladder, and to value them in proportion as they furnish readers for our books, send us patients, clients, customers, or show their ability to give us a boost for political position. Before these days of hurry and drive, before this age of excitement, it was considered one of the greatest luxuries possible to be a listener in a group surrounding an intelligent talker. It was better than most modern lectures, than anything one could find in a book, for there was a touch of personality, a charm of style, a magnetism which held, a superb personality which fascinated. For the hungry soul, yearning for an education, to drink in knowledge from those wise lips, was to be fed with a royal feast indeed. But today, everything is touch and go. We have no time to stop on the street and give a decent salutation. It is, "How do?" or "Morning," accompanied by a sharp nod of the head, instead of by a graceful bow. We have no time for the graces and the charms. Everything must give way to the material. We have no time for the development of a fine manner. The charm of the days of chivalry and leisure has almost vanished from our civilization. A new type of individual has sprung up. We work like Trojans during the day, and then rush to a theatre or other place of amusement in the evening. We have no time to make our own amusement, or to develop the faculty of humor and fun-making, as people used to do. We pay people for doing that while we sit and laugh. We are like some college boys who depend upon tutors to carry them through their examinations. They expect to buy their education ready-made. Life is becoming so artificial, so forced, so diverse from naturalness. We drive our human engines at such a fearful speed that our finer life is crushed out. Spontaneity and humor, and the possibility of a fine culture and a superb charm of personality in us are almost impossible and extremely rare. One cause for our conversational decline is a lack of sympathy. We are too selfish, too busily engaged in our own affair, and wrapped up in our own little world, too intent upon our own self-promotion to be interested in others. No one can make a good conversationalist who is not sympathetic. You must be able to enter into another's life, to live it with the other person, to be a good listener or a good talker. Walter Besant used to tell of a clever woman who had a great reputation as a conversationalist, though she talked very little. She had such a cordial, sympathetic manner that she helped the timid and the shy to say their best things and made them feel at home. She dissipated their fears, and they could say things to her which they could not say to anyone else. People thought her an interesting conversationalist because she had this ability to call out the best in others. If you would make yourself agreeable, you must be able to enter into the life of the people you are conversing with, and you must touch them along the lines of their interest. No matter how much you may know about a subject, if it does not happen to interest those to whom you are talking, your efforts will be largely lost. It is pitiable sometimes to see men standing around at the average reception or club gathering, dumb, almost helpless, and powerless to enter heartily into the conversation because they are in a subjective mood. They are thinking business, thinking how they can get on a little faster, get more business, more clients, more patients, or more readers for their books, or a better house to live in, how they can make more show. They do not enter heartily into the lives of others, or abandon themselves to the occasion enough to make good talkers. They are cold and reserved, distant, because their minds are somewhere else, their affections on themselves and their own affairs. There are only two things that interest them: business and their own little world. If you talk about these things, they are interested at once, but they do not care a snap about your affairs, how you get on, or what your ambition is, or how they can help you. Our conversation will never reach a high standard while we live in such a feverish, selfish, and unsympathetic state. Great conversationalists have always been very tactful, interesting without offending. It does not do to stab people if you would interest them, nor to drag out their family skeletons. Some people have the peculiar quality of touching the best that is in us. Others stir up the bad. Every time they come into our presence, they irritate us. Others allay all that is disagreeable. They never touch our sensitive spots, and they call out all that is spontaneous and sweet and beautiful. Lincoln was master of the art of making himself interesting to everybody he met. He put people at ease with his stories and jokes, and made them feel so completely at home in his presence that they opened up their mental treasures to him without reserve. Strangers were always glad to talk with him, because he was so cordial and quaint, and always gave more than he got. A sense of humour such as Lincoln had is, of course, a great addition to one's conversational power. But not everyone can be funny, and, if you lack the sense of humour, you will make yourself ludicrous by attempting to be funny. A good conversationalist, however, is not too serious. He does not deal too much with facts, no matter how important. Facts, statistics, weary. Vivacity is absolutely necessary. Heavy conversation bores. Too light disgusts. Therefore, to be a good conversationalist, you must be spontaneous, buoyant, natural, sympathetic, and must show a spirit of goodwill. You must feel the spirit of helpfulness, and must enter heart and soul into things which interest others. You must get the attention of people and hold it by interesting them, and you can only interest them by a warm sympathy, a real friendly sympathy. If you are cold, distant, and unsympathetic, you cannot hold their attention. You must be broad, tolerant. A narrow, stingy soul never talks well. A man who is always violating your sense of taste, of justice, and of fairness never interests you. You lock tight all the approaches to your inner self. Every avenue is closed to him. Your magnetism and your helpfulness are thus cut off, and the conversation is perfunctory, mechanical, and without life or feeling. You must bring your listener close to you, must open your heart wide, and exhibit a broad, free nature and an open mind. You must be responsive, so that he will throw wide open every avenue of his nature, and give you free access to his heart of hearts. If a man is a success anywhere, it ought to be in his personality, in his power to express himself in strong, effective, interesting language. He should not be obliged to give a stranger an inventory of his possessions in order to show that he has achieved something. A greater wealth should flow from his lips and express itself in his manner. No amount of natural ability or education or good clothes, no amount of money will make you appear well if you use poor English. End of chapter 17. If you can talk well.